Hi, welcome back to Wallflowers. So today I'm doing basic preparedness. Now I hear people talking about basic preparedness and they relate it to long-term prepping and making sure you've got candles, torches, food store, etc. But being frugal is not just about saving money and having things in reserve. The work I'm going to show you now, probably lots of people do it, you will do, but it's something I do on the regular after I've done the food hauls. If I've bought something in bulk, I portion things down into the size. Now whether it goes into my Ziploc bags, whether it goes into jars, whether it goes into containers, it has to be portioned down for use. So in my last haul you would have seen I bought 8 packets of sausages, and the really long sausages, pork sausages, absolutely beautiful, and I bought them at a rock bottom price of 50p per packet, and they would have been £3.49 per packet in the supermarket. So it's a fantastic discount and a fantastic saving to myself. So basically, I'm going to open the packaging. I'll pop my glasses on before I start touching the meat. I'm going to separate these rather large sausages into 3s, and that's all we need. It's not stingy, they're a large sausage each. It's just, we're making this food stretch. We've got lots of availability to tasty food. Everything's in abundance, but we do not have to overindulge or be greedy. One of these pork sausages is plenty for a breakfast or to go alongside the rest of the vegetables, potatoes, or on a barbecue. Maybe with a burger if we're having a barbecue. But one of these per person for the 3 of us is ample. So I'm quite happy with portioning into 3s. Now I'm having a nightmare with my Ziploc bags. I thought I had plenty in reserve, and as I've come to look for them today for this video, lo and behold, I think I've got 13 altogether. So I'll go as far as I can with everything that needs prepping today. And if I run out, I'll just have to put a couple of containers in the freezer. And what I've just forgotten to do on that bag, what I normally do is, so I've got the 3 bags in the container, I go to the label on the packaging. I'll just cut, because sometimes we'll have chicken sausages, sausages with chilli in, sausages with other flavours. So when this gets brought out the freezer, we'll know exactly which sausages are in this bag. And yes, the cardboard's touching the sausages. I'm under no illusion. Many people might not know this, but when food is packaged within the factories that they package, say bread for instance, it's actually sawdust between the slices of the bread, minuscule amounts, but sawdust nonetheless, to keep those slices separate within that loaf of bread. That's been something that the packaging companies have done for many years. They do it with cheese, they do it with many other products. So for that little bit of cardboard to be touching that sausage, I've done it again, nearly forgotten, it's not an issue for me, because I'm fully aware, we're eating terrible chemicals, we're eating different things, and even to try and eat good organic food these days is nigh on impossible with chemicals falling out of the sky, etc. So a little bit of cardboard, I'm not fussed about. So there we go, that's 1 done, 2 done, on to the 3rd. Do you do this with your frozen meats, sausages, etc.? Do you portion them down so you only have to take a certain amount out of the freezer at a time? I've always portioned my food down. I've done it for a long, long time. And it's just so much easier, especially when other people are reaching into the freezer, such as Oscar here, or Mr. Wallflowers if he hasn't been around when I've been portioning down the food. It's just easy. You're not defrosting, 5 sausages when we're only literally going to use 3. So it just makes sense to me.
Plus the trays take up a lot of space in the freezer.
They take an awful lot of space in the freezer, yeah. So this way, just 3 sausages at a time, folded down is perfect. I try and get the air out of the bag as best as I can, so it's saving that little bit of zipper. They're not going to sit there, are they? Saving as much room in the freezer as we possibly can. It's optimum real estate, isn't it? The room in the freezer. Even if you've got 2 or 3 freezers, we keep going till they're full, don't we? We've got 2 freezers. We've got a small square deep freezer, and we've got the freezer that's part of the fridge freezer. But I know a lot of people who have a lot more. As I say, this works so well for us. I remember a visitor coming to the house quite a few years ago. We didn't make videos in those days. And we were struggling a lot more because the boys were younger and we had a lot more expenses to pay out, etc. We had a visitor, they were staying late, so I'd invited them to tea, and it was that time where I felt I didn't really have much in, but I'd always have a meal to stretch for one person further. Without those type of people, that's how I've been brought up. You've always got an extra meal, Sometimes you might put a little less on each plate and make sure you have that extra meal. Or sometimes you'll just make sure there's enough food to provide for everyone. So this particular day, I'd hunted through the freezer, and at the bottom of the freezer was a little bit of salmon. I had a few potatoes and a little bit of black pudding and a few eggs left. So I put together salmon, mashed potato, fried egg and a bit of black pudding. The person who stayed to tea at the time, his name was Darren, wasn't he? He wolfed it down, absolutely loved it, complimented me on the food and really enjoyed it. And he said to me afterwards, laughing, he wasn't being mean or anything like that, he was just laughing. He said, I thought you said you had hardly any food in. He said, that's something I would have had in a restaurant. He said, you've got hardly any food. And he said, I wouldn't mind eating with you on a regular basis, he said, if that's you with no food. And you know what? That felt lovely. It was like a really warm compliment, Quietly, I was really impressed with that was the quality of the food that we were calling the leftovers, But by doing things like this, you've always got something to put together for a really nice meal. That was many moons ago, wasn't it?
Right.
Growing up in our house with my mum and dad when I was younger, we never wasted anything. I remember most days we had vegetables most days we had potatoes, vegetables, carrots, whatever was available. My dad loved his vegetables and we had them every day. And I remember there was always a pan of vegetable peelings boiling or simmering away, getting cooked through. So my dad was the main cooker when I was younger. He'd prepare most of the food and cook the food. And as he'd peeled the vegetables, he'd wash them, put them in a separate pan. So they could be potato peelings, cabbage peelings, parsnip peelings, whatever there was left over. And he'd put them all in this pan, boil them up, and when they were cooked through, he'd mash them in with the dog food, and the dog would have a little feast, you know. And nothing went to waste, nothing at all went to waste. The dog was well fed and so were we, you know. I can honestly look back and say we were never underfed. We always, for the grace of God, we're always looked after, you know. Never come to the time where we went without, thankfully. And I think our dog must have felt like a king, you know. It was so well fed, so the coat was always shiny, healthy. And my dad always put that down to the vegetables in the food. And it's so simple. You know, we do jacket skins these days with a bit of filling put back in or a bit of cheese or something on top. You know, most people wouldn't think there was something you can do. I mean, people who are genuine cooks now save all the peelings, make a stock out of it. You know, even your onion peelings. But people are losing these skills now. People are so interested in buying a full frozen meal, putting it in the microwave, just not making food from scratch, or not peeling or cutting vegetables, or not peeling their own potatoes, buying frozen chips ready-made. The skills are getting lost. I remember watching a documentary a couple of years ago. It was about children in school, and the teacher was identifying different vegetables and showing them a vegetable and saying, "Can anyone put the hand up and tell me what this vegetable is?" And half the classroom in this particular documentary couldn't recognise a potato and call it a potato. You know, they knew they ate chips, they knew they ate crisps, they knew they ate things containing it, but they didn't recognise it or know the name. Such a basic vegetable. So as she progressed and did different things, some of them they knew were very basic vegetables they had no idea, because the parents weren't preparing them at home or teaching them. They just knew it come in a ready-made packet and that's how they ate them. It's crazy. Basic skills, basic preparedness. Things like this goes a long, long way.
Maybe I'll just put the fork in that one. Only one left.
Put the fork in it?
4.
Oh. I thought you said you may as well just put a fork in that. I'm not going to eat a raw sausage.
When we used to sell the veg, we had that market store, didn't we? And that couple walked past and said, "Why would you bother buying like a cabbage and or what was it, carrots, and peeling them and chopping them up when you can just buy it frozen in a bag already done?"
It's you know, it's just a different way of life. It just doesn't represent anything that we knew years ago, does it?
Mm.
You know, and if you want to be that frivolous with your cash, then you choose what you invest your money on and your time on. You know, you'll make it worthwhile to you. But I'm home.
But frozen cabbage and frozen carrots don't taste anything like fresh, do they?
Nothing at all. So 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. So these are chicken sausages, and these were a gift off my friend Carol. And she came the other day and she gifted me a couple of packs of chicken, like goujoni chicken type things, couple of packs of the garlic sausage and a whole chicken. And over the last 2 days we've eaten the whole chicken. But I've now got the carcass in the pan ready to take the flakes and the bits off, and I'm going to, when that's boiled up, I'm going to make it into a soup. And again, that's just one of those basic preparedness. Don't waste it. There's so much nourishment in the carcass that'll add so much flavour to the soup. Why waste it? I don't need to use OXO cubes in that one. I don't need to add all the flavours, etc., because the chicken will provide it. I will put some flavours in, but not to the extreme where it's overpowering. Waste not, want not. We say it on this channel all the time, and it's totally true. Waste not, want not. I can smell the garlic in them already. A bit fiddly with the gloves on, but we get there. What basic preparedness do you do after shopping when you bring your buys home? You know, some people do, some people don't. Some people will chop up their onions and get them freezer ready, so they just have to take a handful at a time. Some people will slice the peppers and get them freezer ready. Some people will do what I do here with the meat, etc. What do you do? Is there anything I haven't mentioned yet you do as basic preparedness?
And even if you live alone, you can do it with your bread. Portion your bread down so you're not wasting the whole loaf.
Yeah.
You get a few slices out at a time.
Instead of paying a fortune for a small loaf. You know, sometimes you're paying a time and a half for a small loaf when you can actually buy a full loaf and freeze what you need and just take out a couple of slices at a time.
Hello.
Hi Oscar, you okay?
You chopped out your skin then, didn't you?
Just bagging off all the sausages.
Right. Did you tell them we had them for brekkie today?
We did, yeah, we had some for breakfast this morning. They were absolutely delicious. But they were from what we'd already had. Now I'm going to actually take these gloves off.
You seen how the sausages made?
It's not pleasant how sausages are made, but we love the taste so much we're not going to stop eating it. Yeah. Again, this was another gift off Carol, but this was about 12 to 18 months ago. She gifted me these. So they're like mason jar bags, and you can go in the fridge, the freezer, etc. And I do believe they're meant to stand up, but I've had some difficulty in the past making them stand. And because I'm running so low on the Ziplocs, I'm actually going to use these to portion the cabbage out for the freezer. Now I've had these for quite a while and not really used them. This cabbage was in my shopping haul this week, a couple of days ago. And as I said, I was offered to purchase just half a cabbage for 20 pence or a full cabbage for 20 pence. And because I don't mind cutting a whole cabbage and preparing it for the freezer, it made sense that I got the whole cabbage for 20 pence. Made sure I have enough for 2 weeks minimum, if not more. And then I get an extra item next week. So in effect, I've saved myself 20 pence really, because that's what I'm spending on it, but compared to the shop price of £1 something, you know, it might not seem a lot, but I might get an abundant item next week for that single 20 pence, that single pound, you know. So it's still an investment. I don't look at the amount, I look at the actual ingredient, the actual product I'm getting for my money. It's not always about finances. It's a mixture of everything. It's just providing for your family. It's being prepared. I don't know how much I'm going to actually fit in these. This is going to be trial and error for me. I might need the bigger ones. Let me try a bigger one. I'd say they come in these packets. And she bought them off the internet for me. I don't know where she got them. But they have really small ones, the next stage up, the bigger ones and the large ones. So I could put spaghetti or something in there. So I'm going to try these blue ones. I'll take a bit more in. If I can get into it. Have you come across these as a packaging? I don't even know where she got them from. It might be Temu, Amazon, somewhere like that. I'm not sure where she got it from. But a lovely gift. And now, just in time, it was there when I needed it. Do you know, when we're basically prepped, there's always something you can use in place of something else. You know, we all have a junk drawer, and sometimes we're looking for a particular thing and then we'll find something else instead that's just as good, like I did with these bags today, just as good as the Ziploc bags, and we'll go, that'll do. We can still use that for the same purpose. You know, that is basic preparedness to me. There's always something we can use. It's remembering the information, remembering how to use stuff, remembering there's another use for everything. This is a bit of a fiddly job, mind, but it'll all be in there in a minute. I tried to eradicate a lot of the junk drawers in the house, because normally you have one in each room, the kitchen, the living room, you know. And I tried to eradicate a lot of it and put them in a box in the pantry, you know, and club things together, etc. And about a year later, everything's mixed up again. So, you know, living in your house is it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? So a year later, I don't think that's too bad actually. So let's see. I might get 2 of these, possibly 2.5 of these blue ones filled out of a whole cabbage. This is fresh cooked. So probably the amount I'm putting in one of these isn't exactly portion size for 2 people. So what I could do is draw one out, defrost it, use it for a meal for Mr. Wallflowers and I, and whatever's left, because about 2 tablespoons is sufficient on each plate for cabbage, say, and whatever's left I could make sure that I make a stir fry or bob it into another meal and just use up the leftovers, so it's not an issue. Is your arm hurting holding the camera, Mr. Wallflowers?
No, but I've only got 5% left on the camera, so it could go any minute.
Well, we'll pause now and we'll come back in a moment and I'll show you everything that I've prepped, and there's a few more little items I want to put into bags, and I'll come back and I'll show you everything I've prepped for the freezer. Okay, so I finished the rest off whilst we were off camera. So I've got 3 bags of hot honey chicken, so it's like a popcorn effect on the outside, bubbly. 2.5 jars in effect of cabbage, 2 lots of garlic chicken sausages, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lots of extra sausages to go in the freezer. I've got quite a bit more prep work to do, such as the green beans, making the hummus. I've got some fruit again picked from the garden, and I've got a couple of little extra jobs to come in, so I'll probably make a second video of that and bring that all in together. I'm quite happy with this, but what I've had to do in that quick little break is take some other things out of the freezer in order to make space for this. As I say, freezer space is optimum. So I threw some things quickly that are not getting eaten, you know, they're not a reach for in the freezer. Things I thought Oscar might have liked that he's not particularly reaching for. And I put them in a carrier and I took them over the road to a pensioner. And I asked him, would you like them? And he's a very proud gentleman, you know. He said, oh, it's up to you. I said, of course. I said, I've just taken them the spare out the freezer. I said, I've just got to make room to put some extra food in. He said, oh yeah, he said, that'll be lovely. So he's absolutely made up with them. And whilst I was there, he started chatting, telling me about his hospital appointments. He said, I remember years ago, he said, when my mum was sick and had to have carers come to the house, he said they were buying microwave meals. He said, and they'd just say to her, don't forget that food's in the microwave, and they wouldn't actually stay and cook the food for her, you know, and provide the meal. And, you know, it's very similar to that today. Carers are in so much of a rush and the time is cut down so much that although the elderly might have the shopping done for them, are they actually making the effort to go and eat the food and sit back? So I asked him, I said, are you eating well? Are you getting up and cooking and that? He said, yeah. He said, I love it. He said, I'm batch cooking. I'm making stews and soups, he said, and putting them in tubs in the freezer and taking them out. He said, I only use the microwave to defrost. He said, I cook it in the pan. So I'm quite happy that he is actually eating regularly. But I hope you like this basic preparedness that I've done here today. And it's just stocked the freezer up a little bit more. You know, a week, 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer with the sausages. But it'll just keep us ticking over. And it didn't take me that long to do and I enjoyed it. And as I say, in between I got to go and have a chat with a neighbour, so all the merrier. I've got my chicken broth ready for a soup, bubbling away on the pan, and I'm near enough ready to turn that down now and just let it simmer for quite a while, so I'm happy with that. And then the recycling has just all trimmed down to not a lot, but it would have been an awful lot of wasted space in the freezer. Okay, you know I can talk for England and I'll go on all day. Thank you so much for joining me. It's lovely catching up with you. Please take care, remember you're loved, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.